Welcome back from break, everyone. Or I assume everyone's back by now, I hope. I've gone ahead and muted everyone, but you can unmute yourself if you need to say anything. All right, so let's catch up on the advisor validation site. The attendance reports are reactivated and fixed up and working now. They're loading data live. I checked, I think Lincoln might have the most attendance data right now, and I was able to pull up your district-wide ADA ADM report. Took about 30 seconds to load. Got a report from OPS that the calendar details report takes a long time to load, so I will be looking at that one. But generally, the reports are all working. Reminder about the assessment labels roster. I hope everyone's already been looking at this. The labels for the regular NSCAS tests, I said tomorrow, it's actually Friday. We send the labels to NWEA for the NSCAS tests on Friday, which is your regular 3rd through 8th graders. Next week, we will send off the labels for the alternate assessments and the ACT 11th grader tests. Those we'll be sending out at the end of next week. So the label report right now, when it comes to the ACTs, that's pulling data from the graduation cohort data. We've just gotten the system built and brought it over into Advisor, where we're loading our cohort data from NSSRS and mixing it with any new data in the 1819 Advisor data sets. And Melissa, I don't know when we'll lock it necessarily, probably around like noon on Friday, I'm gonna guess. I think we just need to send it over about 4 end of day on Friday, so probably around there.
Is there a place we can check a report for that alternate assessment?
It's part of the labels report. It includes all 3 types of assessments mixed in there.
Okay. So as long as they're running that labels report and the ELPA one, right, too?
Yeah. I'm not sure what the date is for the ELPA report.
Well, I just told my schools to run it at the same time, so.
Oh, sure. Not a bad idea.
Okay.
So we're in the process of building out some more features for graduation cohort. Like I said, we've got the data in Advisor, but we don't really have a good way for you to see it in Advisor yet, other than the labels report. I'm thinking right now of building a report that looks like the GCAT, the cohort analysis tool, which should give you some of the same data from the Advisor side that you see in the NSSRS side. To help that out, I think this would also be a good time to bring over enrollment data from NSSRS so that we can see older enrollments in the enrollment lookup by ID in Advisor. So that would be helpful. So yeah, basically I'll just copy over all that enrollment data for any students that are in Advisor, and that'll update nightly. So I'm in the middle of working on that right now. Hopefully we'll have that ready next week. So keep checking back in on the Advisor validation site. Next up, we still have some bug fixes that are pending. So we'll be looking at that, changes to lookups. We've got an issue with time zones where some dates are being displayed incorrectly for people in mountain time, in the student lookup ID. Some more timeout issues for large districts. So, yeah, it's all on our list. We are getting to them. Same with the dashboard. Once we kind of get through the validation, I'll be working on some dashboard fixes. So no change there. It is on my list though. The dashboard data is being loaded nightly. Right now, it's just yeah, some things won't really be displayed correctly. Continuing on, we had this on last month as well, focusing on attendance right now. So like I've said, we've got our attendance reports up and running. We've also had some discussions with PowerSchool and Infinite Campus focus groups about data, and specifically special case students, part-time students, Rule 18 students. NDE, then we've kicked off a discussion after the break here about, you know, what are the requirements here? Can we officially make some types of attendance optional, I guess is the best way to say it. And what are the implications of that? It's not really.
It's not going to be optional.
Well, yeah, it's
do the best you can.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to put
it. Yeah, because Rule 1 and Rule 2 require it for all students. So we're probably not going to be able to have any students without attendance, technically, but districts will just have to do the best they can.
Yeah. So we will help provide some additional guidance about, you know, how to set up calendars for students that you won't have attendance for, or just as well as some additional guidance about how the instructional days work, as far as calculating days in session and ADM. So we will be putting out some updates to the data elements and who reports what guide. I think we still probably will have another meeting with our NDE team. So, you know, we have to meet with like 15 people to kind of discuss this stuff on our side. So we will be putting out some extra guidance in those documents. I'm guessing probably maybe before the end of the month, maybe
early February.
Yeah, we're into February. But so we hope to help you out with that soon. I also know specifically PowerSchool and Infinite Campus are both working on changes and fixes to reporting your calendars and absences. I think PowerSchool, I know, has got some fixes that will be going out in the January release, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the guidance applies to 18-19 data. Although, yeah, I mean, we're not really changing what the requirements are, but we're just trying to help clarify how to report it in Advisor. So yeah, it could potentially require going back and fixing calendars, moving students to different calendars, that kind of thing. So still an ongoing issue. I'm sure we will talk about this at next month's meeting as well. But we've got several things happening right now. So I'm also interested to see what changes we get from PowerSchool and in campus as well. That might help. Yeah, Anna, that's a good point. We'll try to get specifically into some of how the data work, especially since this calendar data is so new. It's not really like anything we had in NSSRS. So kind of like the stuff I had at the we had a session about it at the data conference last year where I kind of went over some of that data as well. So speaking of, if you want to go look at that, back on our advisor resources Google site, we do have all of the sessions from the conference last year, including this attendance data and advisor. So that's, if you just want to get an idea of kind of what that data looks like, Anna, it's a good one to go to. Section enrollments, again, I had this listed before. This is a good piece of data to be looking at now. We've had all the course related reports are out in advisor validation. There's the course reports generally all are pulling just from your section enrollment data. So we do then, because in NSSRS, courses and grades are really just one set of data, that student grades template. So in advisor validation, there's actually a separate report called student grade details, which is specifically the grade data. That is similar to the course reports, but grades data and specifically final grades are the data that NDE will be looking at for accountability purposes. That report has an option where you could flip between looking at final or all types of grades, just so you can see what other grade stuff you're sending. Now that we've hit the second semester, some of you may have already been submitting some of that data. But yeah, just keep in mind, it's really only the final grades that the state requires for the end of the year collection. But it would be a good idea to start reviewing some of that now. Vendor updates, I don't really have anything major other than what I had already talked about. I know campus, last time I talked to campus, they were still kind of designing what those changes would be, so I'm not sure that we know what that is or when that will be released yet. And PowerSchool, I know, has made some fixes regarding to how the tracks work, but more fixes need to be coming, so that'll probably be in the end of month January update. Teacher endorsement issues. Yeah, we don't have that data available in Advisor yet, but we will be doing that sometime in the spring here. Right now, it's just really the list of courses and the teachers attached to them. And yeah, another note about TestWiz, they're still testing with several districts, so I'm not sure, I haven't heard from them lately, but I assume they are still in testing because I haven't seen them ask for keys for other districts yet. So. I think that's everything I wanted to cover today. Next meeting is September or February 6th. Any other questions? Anything else someone wants to bring up? Go ahead and say it out loud.
This is Amy.
Hi.
So if I've got PowerSchool users on, one of the things that came out a few weeks ago, kind of right around before break, and we just haven't had time to get it out to the masses yet, is, excuse me, there is a an attendance code that is 06, which is early dismissal or late start. If you are mapping to that code, those particular days simply will not publish. So we will get some guidance out, but you will need to change that 06 code to an 01, which is an instructional day. And so that's going to be found if you were going to your system. And again, this is for PowerSchool folks only. Under your code set mapping, under calendar event types, you cannot use 06. And again, we'll try to get some more detailed information out along with probably a video in the next few days.
Okay.
And
Thanks,
then,
Amy.
as Max said, tracks still aren't publishing correctly, and Power School is aware. So hopefully we'll have that fixed as well.
Yeah, good point, Michelle. That I'm wrong. Our next meeting would be February 13th, or second Wednesday. So I'll change this. Okay, let's see. Anna said, TestWiz, if you're doing the auto roster, they changed the FTP accounts. Okay, interesting. So that's auto roster is where you send up the files automatically, I think. So that, well, that's potentially one thing. If TestWiz is able to sync data from Advisor correctly, then you wouldn't have to do the auto roster files. But yeah, like I said, I'm not sure when we will get to that point. Anything else?
I have a question about the TestWiz.
Sure.
It's Glenna Withers at HTRS. When I did the TestWiz, I just sent it to Power School. Do I need to switch it to Advisor?
How are you submitting data to TestWiz? Or are you syncing Advisor data, or are you talking about one of the other ways that you send their roster data to them?
Well, I'm just looking at what you have here, and it says that testing, gathering classroom roster data from Advisor for several districts. Is it better to use Advisor than to do it the FTP link wise with them?
Well, the idea is in the future, I mean, because this is data that we expect you send to Advisor anyway. So the idea is in the future, they will just get that data and you don't really have to do anything extra to set up your roster in TestWiz. However, right now they're only testing with like 10 districts at the moment, so it's not fully rolled out. So unless you are working with TestWiz directly with that new system, I would say keep doing it the same way you've been doing it. They said they still support all the other ways of setting up the roster that they always have. So. And yeah, question from Greg, JNC there. Yeah, we we still haven't put out the official word onto the vendor documentation site for next year, but yes, we are planning on going to the 3.1 EdFi data standard for 1920 school year. Our plans are to get an initial 3.1 sandbox set up around the end of this month, hopefully, which will just be a generic EdFi sandbox without our extensions. Then later in the spring, we will be setting up the official 1920 Nebraska sandbox. So we'll get some documentation out about that put out onto the vendor documentation site, and we'll send you an email too once we get that sandbox ready. Anna's good point. I am not sure how we would handle that in the future if your Advisor roster data doesn't match the TestWiz roster, and I could see that being an issue for other districts as well. So that is something we'll have to work out with TestWiz. I don't know, maybe they can use a hybrid approach where they take your data from Advisor, but then also you just add the corrections that you need or something.
This is Glenna
I don't know
Withers
that.
again from HTRS. I went in this morning to check my cohorts, and I actually reprocessed my errors. Some of the errors that it kicked out, when I went to PowerSchool to look and check that information, it was in PowerSchool, but it didn't pull, it's still showing me errors. Is there any, do I need to do something? Do I need to go in and tell it to run something, or?
You could, yeah. In general, you always really need to check the publishing screen in PowerSchool to see that the data you see in PowerSchool is actually being sent up to Advisor. And you could always use that individual publishing link once you click into any student. I don't know the details about it though. Go ahead and send us a help desk ticket.
Glenna, just send NEBPS a ticket and we'll take a look.
Okay.
One of the things that we're trying to advise people is specifically PowerSchool. Even though certain things do get updated, certain things simply don't. So there really isn't a true automatic, everything gets updated automatically all the time. So I'm telling people at least once a month, if not maybe every other week, I would go through and do a publish all of all those main groups on your advisor page. But open up a ticket with us, Glenna, and we'll take a look.
Would that be a PowerSchool ticket or an advisor ticket?
A PowerSchool ticket.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Max, I don't know if you talked about this and I missed it, or is there any kind of guidance for districts on what constitutes an instructional day? Because I'm getting the question of, we have an early out at say even 11:30 in the morning. I don't know. Do we have is there any kind of guidance on that?
I'm not sure if technically the guidance has always been the same. It's just that before you did all that figuring, before you submitted your student attendance summary template, and before you submitted your days in session count to the CDC. So I'm not exactly sure.
I think Rule 10 describes it. There is a definition in Rule 10, and I think it just pretty much says when teachers and students are present.
Okay.
So, that.
So I can look at real time. Okay. Well, that's the thing. The data stewards don't necessarily know that, where.
Yeah.
Rule 10, so.
But yeah, if it's something like, there's a weather day or something, then
Well, and that would even apply to, like, if you were going on a field trip or something, if it's a district-sponsored activity, it would also be considered an instructional day because it's district-sponsored. I think that's defined pretty well in Rule 10. Oh, this is Pam.
but yeah, we could include some more of that stuff in the data elements guide, I think. Okay. I think we'll call that for this month. Thanks for joining, everyone, and next meeting, February 13th. Thanks, everyone.